Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanalist Podcast, presented by FantasyData. Here's your hosts, Billy Muzio and Bradley Stalder.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanalist Podcast. Billy Muzio today, and this is not Bradley. This is Rich Hribar. He is an analyst for Sharp Football Analyst. He's an author of the worksheet, top 20 in-season ranker, FSWA award winner, and he's trusted by many DFS winners and redraft champs. He is also my nemesis inside our Pros vs. Joes draft and our Draft Sharks draft. He just happened to land in both of my drafts this year. Tough rooms, but tonight, or today, I should say, we are drafting a live FFPC FootballGuys Championship draft from the two-hole. Rich, thanks for joining me.
Billy, what's happening, brother? Got to meet you in Canton, so it was nice to hang out, and you asked me to come on the podcast, and I said, sure. I didn't know it was going to cost me, $150 to come on your podcast, but I mean, I'll take it. We'll draft a winner. No. It's great to meet you. I like seeing all the 49ers stuff in the background. I grew up a 49ers fan. I really don't partake in the fandom anymore because everyone in this industry ruined it for me. But we're picking at 102 here, so we can kind of just. That
was fast. Of course, he just locks in Christian McCaffrey. I mean, for me, it's a chalk Dalvin Cook. Is there anyone else you prefer here?
No, I think that you could maybe make a semi-argument for Alvin Kamara, but I'm still a Cook over Kamara, and I think that he's run just as pure this offseason too, especially with this Irv Smith news. Just such a funneled offense in between so many players getting touches. Chris Herndon, Tyler Conklin, they're not going to command a huge target share either, so we might even get Dalvin Cook for the first time in his career over that 4 catch per game threshold, which he's yet to clear either. So I'm for Dalvin as well.
Perfect. Yeah, for me, I always either lock in CMC or Dalvin Cook the first 2 picks just because, over the course of the offseason, 3 through 12 has been pretty fluid, and you've been able to get pretty much anybody else at those picks, and it's not every day that you get to lock in, a 1 or 2 hole. So I always say when you do get the 1 or 2 hole, take the chalk pick, lock in your guys because you're going to have many opportunities to get somebody else later on in drafts.
Yeah, I've just been living, it feels like, the entire season in spots 7 through 9. So it's nice to not just be there in those spots. I've not been at the front, outside of these, the best balls where we're just pounding them at an underdog. But in all of my main leagues, I've just been stuck in the middle.
See, I always hear that, and I was talking with Adam Krotworth from Draft Sharks, and we were talking about ownership, and I said, it's crazy. This year I have 20% Christian McCaffrey, and he's just like, what? I said for the first 20 drafts I was doing, it was like one hole, and then I would finally get the 2 hole, and I was like, oh, great, I get a Dalvin Cook share, and then they would pick Dalvin Cook at 1. And so I would take Christian McCaffrey at 2. So it was just like I just had this absurd amount of Christian McCaffrey in the beginning of the season. And I was just like, man, if this keeps happening, I'm going to have to start diversifying. And then, lo and behold, next thing you know, it's like back of the draft every pick or 6, 7, 8 or whatever it may be. So take your chalk in the beginning, take your Christian McCaffrey shares, take your Dalvin Cook shares, and then just, especially if you're a volume player, those later picks will come in your drafts.
Yeah, like you said, there's so much variance. I mean, in the picks, basically, and when we're on FFPC, so Kelsey usually goes in the top 3 as well. It's usually one of those 3 in the same order, and then it's just kind of a hodgepodge. It's random every draft. I've seen it all kind of in these drafts. Like you said, you might as well get your ownership there because there's not a lot of variance. You're not going to get Dalvin Cook at 5. You're not going to get Travis Kelsey very often past pick 5. So that's where you got to lock in those guys when you have those slots.
So we have a question here. They said they just joined, missed the first part. Rich took Cook over Alvin Kamara, half-point PPR. No, this is a full-point PPR, and I'll let Rich kind of talk why we both decided on Cook.
Yeah, I think you can make the case for Kamara, but I do think that, like I said, the last bit of news has helped Dalvin Cook out just as much as it's helped Alvin Kamara. I mean, Alvin Kamara, they're going to use him basically till he breaks again. But, you look at the Saints situation, the history without Drew Brees, and it's only been sections of each season, but playing with over the course of a full season, we'll see this kind of illuminated. They average almost a point per drive, fewer the point per drive when he's been out of the game. So we don't know if we're going to have like a drop off there. We also know we're not going to run hot on the 20 touchdowns again, right? Like we're just not. So I mean, maybe he falls back to the 10 to 12 range, especially in a team that's going to score fewer points. The Saints team is a team that we at Sharp Football Analysis have been down on this season. We've already given out their under win total as well. So, if they're not scoring as many points and he already is due touchdown regression, maybe the receptions aren't enough to kind of carry there. Whereas the Vikings, definitely the front half of the season, I mean, their passing schedule is incredible. They should be able to score points. They play a lot of good offenses. You got a guy that is only been outscored in 20-point games. This is including Alvin Kamara. The only person with more 20-point PPR games than Dalvin Cook the past 2 seasons is Christian McCaffrey, 14-17. So I think we're looking at a higher touchdown upside with Dalvin Cook, and with Irv Smith being out and Tyler Conklin and Chris Herndon, the ghost of Chris Herndon, kind of being, kind of traded for. I still think that this could bump Dalvin Cook's reception total as well. And if he's a guy that's going to get to 4 receptions per game for the first time in his career, I still think it gives him just as much upside. But if you really like Kamara, I won't push back too hard.
And there's another piece that people seem to be forgetting. Although Jameis Winston is the starter, Taysom Hill is still on this team. And we've seen Sean Payton get cute in the past. They get down in the red zone and what happens. And this was when Drew Brees was on the field. Taysom Hill enters the game and is the red zone, goal, I should say the red zone quarterback, right? And I still think that that's an opportunity, or not an opportunity, but that's definitely plausible for this offense to do this. Is Winston's going to get him down to the goal line. They're going to throw Taysom Hill in and get cute. And then lo and behold, Alvin Kamara still gets vultured, even though Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback. So it's definitely within the realm of possibility still. I like Alvin Kamara just as much as anybody else. He helped me win many main events last year. But I think that we have to have, pump the brakes a little bit, because they don't have the receiving options they've had. Defenders are going to be able to stack the boxes more. And I think that Dalvin Cook has, every opportunity to be just as successful as Alvin Kamara with the amount of touches he's getting.
Yeah, I have no real problem with it, locking him in as 103. Like I said, I still do edge just Dalvin a little bit. But yeah, I really have no problem with it here. So when you're at 2, we haven't really got to talk about this. We just jumped on and, we picked 2, so it comes on. What when you're in these front draft slots, how do you prefer to build your teams in these FFPC formats?
So I am a big component of let the draft come to you. I mean, you never know. I've seen Barkley. Barkley last night went at the 211 last night in an FBG draft. And if that happens, I'll take another running back, right? But traditionally speaking, I am a firm believer of anchor running back, and then I like to just load up on load up on receivers, punt RB2, and then just find value later, and then piece it together with running backs at the end, and just taking dart throws with like 5, 6, 7 running backs at the end.
All right, well, we should get along pretty tremendously. Even before it was labeled and everyone fights over the moniker. I mean, that's typically how I drafted. I put a lot of content out this offseason and years in the past too. It shows that that's the optimal way to draft. Really, when I'm up in these spots, the only guys that can really kind of be coerced by is maybe CEH in the 3rd, but I'm typically trying to hammer 2 wide receivers too at this spot. Where are you on George Kittle this season?
I mean, do you see the red and gold behind me?
That's true. Shouldn't even ask.
I love George Kittle. However, I do have to say, as much as I love him, injury is always a concern with how physical he plays. And then the kind of the quarterback rotation we're going to see this year, I think what we saw in preseason is going to kind of be a lot of what we're going to see in the season as well. Which is a little concerning because, it throws off rhythms. And when you have drives going down the field, and I'm not going to say Shanahan's going to pull him out in the middle of a drive, but who knows, he may. But you also have Brandon Ayuk, you have Deebo Samuel back, everybody's healthy. So I do have some small concerns with Kittle this year. And in my projections this year, I actually have TJ Hawkinson ranked ahead of George Kittle, purely from a target share standpoint. And reception standpoint. I think he sees more of that, Kelsey Waller target share this year.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. I haven't really loved Kittle's price, especially when he goes around some of these alpha wide receivers,
Exactly.
that have a lot of touchdown upside. Because of that reason too. I mean, once we're gonna have a quarterback change at some point this season, a full quarterback change. At least I believe we will. There's gonna be a ramp up period. I think Lance is gonna be a package player, and then eventually, and also that hurts George Kittle, a guy who's never caught a touchdown inside of the 5-yard line. They're gonna be using Trey Lance a lot in that area of the field, especially early in the season.
Such a weird stat. It's so crazy.
Yeah, especially for a guy that is a physical player, and it is so crazy. But yeah, I've been targeting Kittle more in auction formats than I have in where his redraft price is, just because you get a little bit more of the opportunity cost mitigated in auctions. But yeah, he's a guy too. Like I haven't really been taking the plunge. I know in the FFPC format, it can kind of allure you, and we're in a spot where like we won't get Hawkinson coming back. We
Correct.
might get Mark Andrews. Like we would maybe be looking at Mark Andrews in the 4th, and then if we don't do that, we're probably waiting because Pitts and Hawkinson will go after we pick, almost always.
Yeah, and this has been my dilemma as of late because we've seen this tight end position just thin out, and it seems to happen every year. You think you have this deep position, and then you come week 1, it's like the position just gets thinned out. We lost Irv Smith for the year with the news today. We have, Evan Ingram, who's battling that calf injury. We're on the clock. So for me, it's pretty clearly either A.J. Brown or Justin Jefferson. Is there anyone else here that you like?
No, those are the next 2 guys I have. I mean, with the, I don't know how you feel about stacking Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. I would have no problem with that. I do have Jefferson just a little bit higher. I think he's got more of a runway to targets in the full PPR format, but I have no problem with A.J. Brown too. I assume he's going to go.
Does the AC joint scare you at all, Jefferson?
No, because all the guys that I follow and trust seem to believe it's not an issue as well. But I have no. If you want to really push back and go Arthur Juan, I'm fine with Arthur Juan as well.
I like Jefferson. I'm underweight on him, so I'd say let's go ahead and take Jefferson here. I like the stack, and then also with Irv out for the year, I think that just ups Justin Jefferson's target share for the year. So I'm going to lock in Justin Jefferson, and who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and A.J. Brown will fall to us. Maybe this guy loves, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and CeeDee Lamb. So let's hope for the best, but probably unlikely. But if A.J. Brown makes it back, I think that's best case scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jefferson wouldn't have either. So, like you said, maybe he goes running back and then a receiver he just happens to like more.
One for two.
Yeah. Hey, cheer, baby. We'll get a little sweat going early in the 3rd round.
Hey, made it.
All right, man. Listen, we played it well.
Oh, we're on a pier here in the 3rd round.
You love to see it.
What'd I say? Maybe he's a CeeDee Lamb fan. There it is.
Yeah, and you know what? I really like the upside of the Tennessee offense this season because, obviously they've run, their offense through Derrick Henry. They've been kind of the Seattle of the AFC, the last, year and a half. But you look at their opening schedule, they face so many good opposing offenses. And, I go back to last year when they played the Browns and, the Baker just shredded them and they had to fight back and come and, Tannehill's winging it around. They open the season, they face Kyler Murray, then they face Russell Wilson, then they get Josh Allen, they get Patrick Mahomes, they get Matthew Stafford. All those are in the front 9 games of their season. So they're going to be playing in some shootouts where they're going to have to really kind of press the attack because their defense is atrocious. And then we just need and A.J. Brown is like one of these guys I love, and it's more narrative based, but I love when you can get a player that hasn't had his best season yet. Like he's gotten better each year, even going back to Ole Miss. If you follow his Ole Miss career, he's gotten better at football each year and more productive. But we still haven't seen the best season of him, the best complete season. And you can still get that still, buy in. Like whereas we took Justin Jefferson last year, may have been Justin Jefferson's best year of his career. We don't know yet, but we know there's still better upside in A.J. Brown's portfolio than he's shown so far. If we can just put it all together.
I mean, look at the year that he put up last year with 2 knee injuries. I mean, he was playing through both those knees and put up, that monstrous year. And now he has Julio to divert attention away from him, and he's going to be facing, maybe not less than stellar coverage, but he's still going to be facing, I should say, not as many double teams as well. So I think that A.J. Brown having Julio there helps his stock. And then you hit the hammer on the nail. I mean, they're not going to be able to just, drop everyone back in this offense. They have to worry about Derrick Henry. They're going to have to, worry about the run. So I like how much more balanced offense this is this year. And I think that really bodes well for A.J. Brown's fantasy stock.
Yeah, we've got obviously two guys on the same team, but we're concentrated offenses too, is what we're locked in on right now. We do not really have to worry about Anthony Fursker coming to take a bunch of targets away from AJ Brown, just like we don't have to worry about Tyler Conklin and.
Are you
Chris
besmirking the Furk Daddy?
Oh, are you a big Furk Daddy guy? I mean, listen, I cheer for the Furk Daddy. I wish him well, but
no, I like him. I liked him at early ADP. In the beginning of the year, he was going in like around 20 plus when Jonnu Smith was technically a free agent. And I anticipated Jonnu Smith being gone. So I was locking in the Furk Daddy like every time round 20. And then lo and behold, he's traded and he started going in like 10, 11. That was priced out for me. But now that he's back in the like 14 range, I'm interested again as like a, tight end 2. Especially if you have somebody like a Kelsey or a Waller or someone in the earlier half, you can just take that gamble on somebody who is going to be playing in an offense where targets are available. And I mean, let's face it, Julio Jones is not the most nimble guy, and so he's probably going to be nicked up here, banged up there, and miss a game here or there. And who's going to be the number 2 option in targets on this team? Well, more than likely it's going to be the tight end here and there. And I think that he has a chance to for direct snaps and has a chance for some meaningful target share in this offense.
Yeah, that's kind of how like the ebb and flow of this has gone, right? He was a good value, then it was like always going overdrafted because people started coming around, and then he kind of dipped down, and then he fits a lot of the Tannehill stacks very well in your best ball leagues, and these dart throws in this format as well, where you're going to have to take some backup tight ends. So it's a typical redraft you probably wouldn't if you take one high, but in FFPC you've got to load up on some purple.
So we're through the first 2.5 rounds now, almost 3. Anything out of the norm for you? Anything that you say kind of raised an eyebrow? Any pick here on the board?
I mean, Chris Carson jumping CEH is, you typically don't see that very often. We get our typical Mahomes reach, which is something that just was going to happen throughout the test of the time. People are going to take that QB1 too early. But everything else looks pretty much on par. Good value on Saquon. He doesn't usually make the deep second. Like you said, he went 211. You said last night that you're in a draft you were in. But I think 205 205 there is great, or 206. I'm sorry, is great pick time to take Saquon because you're kind of like getting an anchor first. I know you didn't go running back, but to start with a Gibraltar like Devontae Adams, then have Saquon. I still think big picture Saquon's going to be good. It's going to be a ramp up, I think, for him. But him just being active is positive. They get these ramp up games to the Denver and Washington matchups. Then the schedule opens up for the Giants a little bit, and I think that we'll see Saquon start to look like kind of Saquon, end of 2019.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely be eased into it. I mean, you're not going to rush back your star running back after an ACL tear, and I think it's interesting. So when we had no idea what was happening with Saquon Barkley, he was going kind of mid to end round 1. Then we had some clarity, and he moved to kind of the the 2-3, 2-4, 2-5, should you say, and then I expected him though to start moving his way back into round 1, closer to the season that we have come, but it's actually done opposite. He's actually moved down boards a little bit more to that 2-6 range now, and like I said last night, 2-11, which is not normal, but he's kind of still floating in that mid-second, early second round and hasn't moved at all. I mean, do you expect Saquon to start moving back into the first as we reach the final weeks of draft season?
I don't know. I mean, I would. I still have him there. I have him right after Aaron Jones, and I've had a tough time between him and Aaron Jones, but I think you just edge the Packers offense, and buying in on elite offenses is something I always like, or good, above average offenses. I don't like to draft a lot of players unless they're cheap at a discount, that I believe are going to be on terrible offenses altogether. So I have been kind of waffling back there, but I think he should be a first-round pick. I don't think there's any doubt, because you talk about guys from a positional leverage stance that can have a running back season, that can be a top 3 running back season. Because remember, if you have like the RB8 in a season, that's not having an elite running back. People say it's an RB1, and sure, it's a top 12 running back, but that's not having an elite running back. You want to have one of these guys that have basically a top 2, 3, top 3 scorer at the position, because that's where you get the gigantic positional leverage at the running back position. And when you're going on a list of guys who can be that top 3 scorer, you're only going to put a couple guys ahead of Saquon Barkley. The three guys that were drafted here: McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Kamara, and then he's basically in the next bucket of guys. Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, him, maybe Jonathan Taylor, like. Even Derrick Henry, he really can't get there in this format. I mean, Derrick Henry just had 2,000 yards and 17 touchdowns and couldn't get there. So I mean, I think that
try to
Saquon,
repeat that stat again.
yeah, I mean, so Saquon, I believe, still should be a first-round pick, and especially I think owners are really bad at fantasy does all the time. Are really bad at understanding replacement value and replacement value cost early in the season when your team is full strength. It's not Saquon Barkley's missing 2 games. It's Saquon Barkley from weeks 3 through 17. What is that worth? Because you're going to have replacement value in your lineup. You're not taking a 0 at those spots. And, with him already being on the mend, it's a little bit different than Michael Thomas, whereas Michael Thomas, we don't know. Is there going to be Michael Thomas returns in week 8? Then is it 2 more weeks of Michael Thomas trying to play himself back into shape? And then, you're in week 10 and you're already boned throughout the season. There's a little bit of difference here. Saquon, we know he is actually healthy. It's more of a period now where it's just acclimation process. And I think people are overvaluing the slow start and the ramp up period here, because he should be definitely drafted ahead of guys like Nick Chubb in full PPR. Absolutely.
So you mentioned all the running backs that could possibly finish above him, and you missed the name that I actually have ranked ahead of him this year. I'm curious to see your thoughts on him, Austin Eckler. So I understand he's not, between the tackler rusher here, but his PPR upside, especially with this revamped Chargers O-line, Herbert and this Lombardi offense now here inside this Chargers offense. What are your thoughts on Austin Eckler here for 2021?
I feel really great about him having the apex, but you only get it one way, and it's if he gets goal line carries. I mean, if he doesn't get goal line carries, I feel like he's just going to be one of those picks that just kind of you're never happy with, because even last year with a full workload, 17 touches per game, he still only had 2 goal line carries and only was able to get 3 RB1 scoring weeks out of that season. And granted, it was a season that was mitigated through injury. But if you look at PPR scoring weeks over the past decade, only 15% of all RB1 scoring weeks have come in a game without a touchdown. In top 6, 93% of those games comes with a touchdown. So if he doesn't have goal line carries, there's going to be a season where he runs that scenario we said. He finishes as the RB8 in PPR. He finishes as the RB9 or something like that, but is just giving you a bunch of like RB15 weeks on a without an injury. So I mean, that's the outcome. But if he does get goal line carries, then he's going to look a lot like Alvin Kamara did last year. Because, probably not with the same target share, but, that's kind of upside he has. But that's kind of where I think his price is still fair, but you only have one out, and it's him getting goal line carries.
See, I agree, but I slightly disagree. I think that he could still get there without the goal line carries simply from a target share percentage. I mean, the man has averaged, like last year, okay, extrapolated, it was like 106 targets, but, the year before 108. So we have... This year, I have him projected for 106 targets, 80 receptions, 765 yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. And then it's the usage on the ground. Yes, in the goal line area, but he has to break that 180, 200 carry mark, I think, in order to get there. If that doesn't happen, I just don't think there's any way, shape, or form that he can make it there. But I hope he gets the goal line carries, or else I'm going to be pretty sad because I own a lot of Eckler.
I mean, I would love to get the goal line carries. He's a guy where when I double tap the position, I like to take him as my RB2, but he's not a guy I like to go anchor with. Yeah,
anchor's tough. But I think if you take, if you get him, middle of first or into the first, and then take another running back,
if you go him Saquon, or maybe him Gibson, if you're double tapping, or him Taylor, that's when I like to take Eckler, when you double tap.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to say who I want until this got perfect. He left Mark Andrews. I would say I want Mark Andrews here just because there's a massive teardrop afterwards.
Absolutely.
But if you want anybody else, I'm fine.
Nope, that is exactly the direction where I would have headed. We kind of brought it up when we picked earlier when I brought up the Kittle conversation, and Kittle went before anyways. Because when you pick at these front 3, you don't take Kittle, you never get Pitts or Hockenson back to you. And then you said the firewall, the big 6. That's the firewall. The rest of this is just a big drop off. You might see Logan Thomas go. We might see Tyler Higbee go in these next few rounds. But everyone else you're forcing.
And we've seen it's interesting because we've seen the tight end pricing just kind of increase over these last 2 weeks with all this these injuries at the tight end position between Evan Ingram and Irv Smith and Tyler Conklin and everybody that, people were taking, that little bit kind of semi later in drafts, that 8 to 10, 8 to 11 range. And we start seeing Hawkinson go now almost every round 3. Mark Andrews was going early 4. So I'm extremely happy to get him here at the end of the 4th. And we are back on the clock. This guy just double tapped running back with Miles Sanders and Hunt, which gives us kind of anyone at our choosing for another receiver here. I like T. Higgins.
Yeah, my board is basically T. Higgins, Julio Jones, Adam Thielen, who we can't take either of those guys, and then Brandon Ayuk. Those would be so it'd be between Higgins and Ayuk, and it sounds like you have Higgins ahead as well.
I do.
Okay, then easy game.
Easy peasy. Lock in Higgins. Yeah, so I like Ayuk. I think he's a dynamic player. I just have concerns with him repeating that production here in 2021. He had the year he had, in my opinion, because Debo was hurt, Kittle was hurt, every 49ers running back was hurt. So he was just kind of forced into a massive target share. They were force feeding him targets in every game. So do I think he's going to replicate that in 2021? No, I do not. I think he's still dynamic, but I think that T. Higgins has a very high target share in this offense, even with Jamar Chase on the field, even with Boyd on the field, because this defense is so bad. They're going to be playing from behind all the time. They're going to be throwing the ball. I mean, we look at what Joe Burrow did last year prior to his ACL tear. He was one of the pass heaviest quarterbacks in the league. And it's simply because their defense is so bad, they have to throw the ball. And their offensive line is so bad that they can't run the ball as much as they'd like. So T. Higgins for me is an easy smash over Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I have him as higher as well, like we said, so that works out great. You just look at the Bengals, like you said. I mean, Joe Burrow was, second in the NFL in dropbacks per game before he got hurt. They are a team that uses 3 wide receivers, up there with the most of any team in the league. Just really kind of easy to kind of glom onto that kind of usage. I had him ahead of Jamar Chase the entire time. I'm actually kind of bummed out that it's kind of flipped. It's kind of oscillated to where, he's jumped him in ADP, but that's okay. We've got a lot of T. Higgins on rosters this season. Like you said, the volume's going to be there for him. And then we love these year 2 wide receivers. I know Ayuk's a year 2 wide receiver too, but year 2 is shown historically to be where, guys that were productive as rookies get their largest spike in terms of team target share and targets per game. So I still think there's ascension here that we're buying in on T. Higgins as well.
You also have to consider when for me at least it's kind of it's like what differentiate when you're down to that last straw, like that coin flip decision, right? And for me, it breaks down to game script as well. The Niners have more positive game scripts in their favor, I think, and we're going to see a lot more of that running game. They have a better defense where, Cincinnati and the Bengals, they have a lot more negative game scripts. They're going to be throwing the ball. I mean, everyone. I always like to go back to like Bortles as an example. I know it's a different position, but Bortles was like the garbage time king, where I think the Bengals receiving core can be the same because they're constantly behind. They're playing garbage time. They're throwing the ball a lot, and they're going to get that volume, especially in the second half of these games. So when in doubt, I always go for the volume, and I go for game script as well.
Nice. We're sitting good. I mean, this looks like a lot of my teams that draft. So this is I'm feeling real good. I'm feeling a lot of symmetry here.
This team is sexy.
This is a lot of what I'm looking to do from this draft slot.
So
Team 1 has helped us. I swear, I mean, I never get the 101 in these, but the McCaffrey team always kind of helps out the field, I feel like.
Yeah, that's like they always screw it up. It's like you have the best running back to go anchor with, and you can just load up on value at wide receiver and just punt the RB2 position. But it seems like people always want to just get cute and do something stupid with it.
I mean, Kareem Hunt at RB21, and granted, maybe this guy runs into the silver bullet, like where Nick Chubb misses a ton of time again, but definitely an aggressive pick, Kareem Hunt there at the 4-5 turn.
I mean, he's been making it back in the 6 at times there.
Yeah, that one's aggressive. Yeah, I see the Christian McCaffrey owners often take Josh Jacobs too at this spot, which also feels kind of like you don't need to chase the running back value. You already have McCaffrey. You could throw other guys at your RB2 spot, especially pass catchers when you have McCaffrey. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I as jealous as you always are of the McCaffrey first 3 picks of those teams, I feel like they always kind of give you a little bit back in the middle.
They find a way to mess it up.
Because it's hard to mess up those first 3 with McCaffrey. Like, because you get someone great at the 2-3 turn always. Like, it's hard to butcher those. But I always feel like starting round 4 or 5, you start to see a little bit of the cracks in the McCaffrey owners' foundation.
Yeah, and you can always find the good drafters from the mediocre or even the bad drafters immediately once you hit those that 4-5 turn or the 6-7 turn. My co-host Bradley had a comment here. Andrews is going to smash with Hollywood hurt, Bateman out, Miles Boykin hurt. Dobbins done for the season. He gets such a large target share and gets touchdown upside. I agree. Yeah, he's moved up my boards. I think that he just has, a easy route to success in this offense, and he's going to be peppered with targets early and often.
Yeah, I mean, people forget that, everyone's double counting Andrews is, kind of, I don't want to say disappointment, but I mean, everyone did this with Lamar too. Like, the Ravens were a screaming regression team. Like, they weren't going to be as elite in offense in 2020 as they were in 2019, just because they had scored on 57% of their drives. It was the highest rate since the 2007 Patriots. It's going to be really hard to repeat that. But we finally got Andrews as a full-time player, which is all we wanted. I mean, you look at last year, he's played 65.5% of the Ravens snaps per game when he was available. Because remember, they had a COVID, mid-season. Maybe we'll see it again with the Ravens with what's going on this offseason with them. They feel a little snake bit this offseason. But, up to that point in his career, he only played 44% of the team snaps per game. We got him as a full-time player. The Ravens are going to have more of a passing uptick. They basically told us this. The signal's been they're going to throw more all offseason. Now, are they going to throw as much as the Bills did last year? No. But, when you talk about all these receivers being injured, Bateman's behind the 8 ball. It sounds like Hollywood's going to be available week 1, but he, hasn't practiced the entire preseason until this past week. And then you're talking about the tight end position. Who has better odds at leading the position in touchdowns than him? Like, he's one of the, because even Waller's going to catch more passes than him. It's him and Kelsey for the touchdown total, right? Like,
yeah,
those are the 2 highest odds that you would get. I mean, Waller's going to catch more passes than him, but Andrews is a guy that's been a touchdown machine so far in his career. So just a little more consistency and stability from last year, which is what I think we'll see from this offense, because they won't have to deal as much as the stuff off the field that they did last year. I'm all in. Like I said, that was the firewall guy.
So I'm blessed we got him there. We have a question here. Would you rather have Andrews or Hawkinson, though, in this format?
In this format, I would lean towards Hawkinson just for, like, I see him very much like a 2019 version of Waller. Just because I don't think the Lions are going to be able to score as much. People forget that the Raiders were 6th in the NFL in scoring rate per drive last season. They produced a lot of successful drives. I don't think the Lions will be that good, but they can be as good as I think the 2019 version of the Raiders were when Waller had that huge target share, but they were 21st in the league in scoring rate per drive. A lot of people have made the corollary to, like, last year's Waller. I see him more as like a 2019 version of Waller, and that's okay. That's fine. I think that just in this, with where it's more emphasis on the receptions than the touchdowns, I would still edge Hawkinson over Andrews.
Man, look at my man pulling out stats from 2019 off the top of his head, like it's just happened yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, hey, listen, we've wrote a lot this summer. A lot of words have been penned. We're here. We're finally drafting teams and writing week 1 content. I'm excited about it.
We have one more question here. Higgins over Boyd ? In a half-point PPR. Can you rank the Bengals wide receivers, please?
I have them basically in order of ADP, so I have no problem with Boyd. You just buy the cheapest piece, right? Great floor. He's basically kind of arbitrage on Robert Woods in a sense. But you look at from a target value stance, I have an article, and it's a free article you can check out at sharpfootballanalysis.com, where it talks about the value of targets and the types of targets receivers get. And there's just a clear discrepancy in the types of targets T. Higgins gets versus Tyler Boyd, to where if you would run into an upside season, like Tyler Boyd, for him to run pure and get like a difference-making wide receiver 1 type season, you'd have to run really, really hot. Whereas T. Higgins can kind of get there, and like he can have like a Kenny Galladay type season as a floor, and then have like a DK Metcalf like season as a ceiling, because the types of targets he gets. So there's a discrepancy, but I would have no problem if anyone likes Tyler Boyd is just buying the cheapest pieces offense. We have a couple offenses like that, like the Steelers offenses like that a little bit, the Cowboys in a sense, where if you just want to buy in on the offense, the passing volume, because if either T. Higgins or Jamar Chase were to miss time, Tyler Boyd's target share is also going to rise. So I have no problem with that. But when you just look at it in terms of like a target value stance and the types of targets that each player gets, T. Higgins has more of a pathway to really kind of break the bank than Tyler Boyd does.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had Higgins ranked ahead of Jamar Chase even earlier in the season. Just year two under his belt, has seen the NFL, has adjusted to the speed already. I feel like Jamar Chase is going to take some time, but I think that Jamar Chase is probably the better talent in terms of a pure talent standpoint. But there's an adjustment when it comes to the NFL, and especially when you have COVID around the corner and all these protocols and things that slow down, these preseasons like they haven't done in the past. These last 2 years have been tough for rookies entering the NFL. So I have Higgins still ranked ahead of Jamar Chase. I had him ranked ahead of Jamar Chase at the beginning, but then I have Chase and then Boyd as well. But
yep.
I understand what you're saying 100% about taking the later stab on the player at cheaper ADP. Like, that's why I love Juju so much. Like Juju he's put two of his last 3 years, he's been a top 20 wide receiver. And the hate on him, I don't understand it, quite frankly. And people are shooting for the moon with Claypool, and they're taking him, at the end of 5, middle of 5. But I'd rather take the cheaper target or the cheaper cost on the receiver who has had proven success, and quite frankly, I believe was going to be playing in 2 wide receiver sets. And we saw that in preseason. Hold up, we're on the clock. All right.
So Lamar goes. I mean, you look at this build so far. I can be kind of, let's see, where are we at? We can take another receiver here is probably where I look to go because with Javonte Williams being out. I could be talking to Trey Sermon, but I don't think the owner at this pick at pick 1 is going to take Trey Sermon.
Yeah, I think we have a better chance of getting him on the back.
So I would probably lean either Laviska Shenault or...
I was going to say Laviska.
Okay, then there it is. There it is right there then.
That's easy. Especially with Chark nursing an injury. We have Marvin Jones now nursing that AC joint injury. With Travis Etienne out, Laviska's more of that gadget player. I think we could see him used a lot more in shorter routes. So I like Laviska. I have high hopes for him here in 2021.
And I think the preseason has shown in these full PPR formats that he's going to be like the guy that gets peppered. Oh, we're already back. This guy, he was locked and loaded on his 2 picks.
So I think the question is here, do we want to take a running back now, or do we want to wait until the next go around, or do we want to take a second tight end and secure the position in this tight end premium league? I think there's a lot of different directions we could go here. I'm really open in the direction.
Yeah, if we take a running back, I would lean towards Sermon. Especially just because this still counts as a tournament format too. And I just think at the end of the season, he's leveraged on a lot of the 49ers stacks people try to build. And we've seen the 49ers, when they get into these games where they control game script, it's usually a running back going bananas in those games. And he's going to be a guy where early in the season, we might be playing some guys over him, but I think there's going to be a ramp up. And I think he'll also be the goal line guy. So I would lean him or Cortland Sutton would be my 2 guys if I would be...
Okay, I'm underweight on Sermon, so I'm going to lock him in. I like that thought process. Also, if you look at their shootout schedule in this format is phenomenal. I have it up here on the board. They have Atlanta in week 15.
Yep.
And then week 16, bear with me, I highlighted a bunch of names. Tennessee in week 16, and then Houston in 17. So it's one of the best shootout schedules in the NFL, and you don't have to sell me on a Niner anyways. So
yeah, he's been the guy I've been kind of, like I said, combating the builds that people have. And I like Mostert too, and I think Mostert's going to be effective. But when you look at Mostert, especially his career at San Francisco, he's been so bad inside the 5, and the 49ers don't use him there. So I think Sermon's going to be in there, and they're going to use Lance a lot there too, especially early in the season. But I think Mostert's going to be a guy that has this huge, like a lot like Dobbins without the touchdowns last year. Like he's going to be a guy that probably averages 5.5 yards per carry or something crazy. But if you don't get a long touchdown run, we already know those guys aren't going to catch a lot of passes either. So, I mean, if you don't get a long touchdown run, there's going to be a lot of weeks where he gets you these hyper-efficient touches, but then you just don't get the ceiling weeks, right? You need the touchdown to go with them. That's how I think Mostert's going to be. I have no problem with Mostert as ADP, but I do think that Sermon and Lance are going to be the guys that they give the money green zone touches to on the ground.
Yeah, and we see it every year with rookie running backs. You hit the hammer on the nail. We're probably going to be playing other players ahead of them at the beginning of the season, but come second half, watch out.
That's a long tournament play in process too, because there's still a tournament element to these FBG leagues.
We have a question here. Any worry when drafting a running back and wide receiver from the same team? I passed on Claypool because I drafted Najee. No, not for me. Especially, I mean, I don't like Claypool, so I would pass on Claypool just because I don't like him. I'd rather have Juju, especially at ADP cost. But for me, I don't mind stacking running backs and wide receivers from the same team like we did here with Cook and Jefferson. Is there some negative aspects? Of course there is, but there's also a lot of positives as well. So I have no problem with it as long as it is a high caliber team. So somebody that's going to be scoring a lot of points, someone's going to have a bad defense. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can go about it, but those are just kind of, in a nutshell, a few that I look at.
Yeah, and in us with taking 2 Vikings as opposed to the example he laid out with the Steelers. So sacking like Najee Harris with the Steelers wide receiver is a little different because you've got a larger pie, right? You've got more guys occupying touches. Whereas, us taking Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson is a very concentrated offense. If you were to take Derrick Henry and a Titans receiver, I feel like that's something similar. But, if you're talking about like taking Joe Mixon and a Bengals receiver, that's something like there's a lot more touches and circumference to cover, which makes it a lot harder. But with these these narrow touch trees in these offenses like the Vikings and the Titans and some other teams, I don't have any problem with it all. A team like if you get Eckler and Keenan Allen, I'd be fine with that. Then that's the only the issue you run into is if you're trying to stack them, is you're trying to cover too much ground, and it leaves you a lot of weekly oscillation where guys have up weeks and down weeks. Like we know Justin Jefferson's weekly involvement's going to still be there, even if it on weeks where he has a low fantasy week, he's still going to come with like a high target share in the offense.
Yeah. And how do you feel about best ball? I mean, are you willing to add a third target from that offense in there, or are you straying away from the third option?
I typically don't go for the full onslaught unless it makes sense. Like I would say, like if you could do like maybe Thielen or like Julio, it makes sense. Just because again, if like say the apex guy does go down, then that other player goes to the moon again. If AJ Brown has missed time, Julio's gonna, and vice versa. If Julio misses time, AJ Brown's even gonna go even more up. Although you have to pay higher. But same thing with Thielen. We've seen that last year. Especially when Thielen missed that game, we saw Jefferson's target share skyrocket, and then Jefferson also got end zone targets that game, which was great because he didn't really get a lot of end zone targets. Something we're expecting to grow in year 2 compared to what Thielen got. So I don't avoid it. It just makes sense. It just if it makes sense from the situation and then like the player on the board, right? Like that's where we are. Like as long as it makes sense there, I don't think there's any problem with it.
So
granted, there only one guy can score a touchdown per drive. So
unless they get it called down, they score twice. No, I'm just kidding. But we have a couple things, everybody. While you're here and you're tuning in, thanks for joining Rich and I for this fantasy football guys draft here at FFPC. Make sure to like and subscribe the show. Hit that smash subscribe button on the Fantasy Data YouTube page. Give us a follow on Twitter. Give Rich a follow if you're not following him. Give me a follow if you're not following me. We do these drafts pretty frequently here on the FFPC live. And so if you are a drafter, if you're a high stakes player, if you just like to listen and watch us talk football, we are doing this, multiple times a week. So make sure to tune in and subscribe to us on YouTube. Also, I'm going to be spitting out some stats. Mr. Rainman Rich Hribar over here, as I have him off the top of his head. I'm using our fantasy data, data numbers over here. So if you like any of the numbers I'm spitting off, make sure to subscribe at Fantasy Data. Use code FFF20 for 20% off any Fantasy Data subscriptions. And that code does stack. So for my best ball players out there, you can stack that with all the other discounts that are going on right now. All right, back to the board here. Let's take a look at the let's go 6 on. So Boyd, Chenault on the back to us. Dak Prescott in the 7th. We took Sermon. Mostert followed up right behind us. And that's kind of been a trend. We've seen Mostert with his preseason usage start sneaking up boards. Mm-hmm. He was kind of going in that 8-9 range earlier. AB here after that, Kenny Golladay, Devontae Smith, Cortland Sutton. Then we had a little bit of a quarterback run here in the 7th. We had Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Brady go. And then we had Debo Gallup. And we start seeing kind of that next tier of tight end start going off the board. Anything abnormal for you?
No, I mean, we got basically we missed the quarterback firewall. So, I mean, we can talk about like who our favorite next quarterbacks to kind of like go in on from that area of the draft. We still, we filled our flex, so we're good. We'll throw our running back darts. I think you and I are on the same page at the running back position, so we'll throw our darts later so we can keep stacking receivers. I would say at this point, there's probably not a quarterback worth chasing, and we know we're bookended by teams that aren't going to take quarterbacks. At this point, we're one of 3 teams without a quarterback. But yeah, we can kind of just talk about like who you look for after the top tier of the dual threat guys go, because then you start to see Brady go with who is gone. We still have Jalen Hurts on the board for a little bit upside. You can pair, mix Trey Lance in with another guy that has more early season upside, and we wait to that bridge. I've been doing that a lot because, obviously when Trey Lance plays, he's the archetype of quarterback that you want in fantasy. Where are you on this 49ers? So what's your thought? Do you believe he takes over as the starter at any point this season?
Yeah, week 7 after the bye is my thought process. I think that we'll see him involved. I think we're going to see him sprinkled in on drives like we kind of did in preseason. I would be very curious to see if that's how they're going to use him throughout the season. I don't foresee it happening because I think Shanahan likes to get in a rhythm, and I think he would just follow that rhythm and whoever's hot, use him. But who knows if Lance just kind of takes off and is playing well, I could see him just leave him on the field as well. So, but my projection is after the bye here in week 6, and they throw in the field week 7. But there is a quarterback that is still on the board now that Team 6 picked. I'm comfortable talking about it because I doubt that 5-4-3 take a quarterback, and that's Justin Herbert. And I'm very high on Herbert this year. I'm just high on the Chargers in general. But Herbert's actually my projected quarterback 5 on the season. He finished as quarterback 10 last year as a rookie. He finished 10th in touchdowns with 31. He was 6th in passing yards, with 4,300 passing yards. And he was 9th last year in air yards per game. And not just that, but he was also very accurate. He was the 6th quarterback in interceptable passes per game thrown. So I love Justin Herbert. That to me is the last of the tier break here. So when we talk about that firewall, I like the word you use. He to me is that last pick here. I have him in that same tier. And I there's a scenario where I could see him, being, a top 3-4 quarterback this year, simply from a volume standpoint in passing, especially with this beefed up O-line.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line is a positive. He has some interesting kind of peripherals of how good he was last year, how sustainable they are. I mean, we don't have to take him here because the other guy's not going to take him.
Correct. Yep.
We can.
I'm fine pushing the position too. I mean, I'm high on some quarterbacks that are going later. Like I'm high on Baker, and we have a
Tannehill stack open to us.
Yep, there's a lot of different options we can go. We can even go.
Well, we have 37 seconds for, I'm assuming, a wide receiver.
Yes.
So
we're up next.
Oh, we're not on the clock right now. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought we were. My bad. So let's talk these receivers first. We'll circle back to Herbert just so we make sure, because I feel like we're in an area where we're going to make sure we get this. We also had a huge tight end run before us if we wanted to get in on that and prevent, because the team 1 does not have a tight end yet. But losing Jonnu was like the last guy that I was like super interested in.
Yeah, and me as well. Goddard was the only one really too. He could have opened the board for a Hurt stack, but he's gone.
Other than I'm kind of waiting on like a Cole Kmet type guy.
So for me, I'd say it's either Mike Williams or I like Darnell Mooney. We could take another running back here if we wanted to.
And Waddle just went. Waddle was the guy.
Yeah, Waddle was the guy I wanted to. For me, it's either going to be Mooney, Hardman, or Michael Thomas.
I would say Michael Williams. I would vote Mike Williams.
Okay, that's what I said instead of Mike Thomas. What the hell
yeah, I knew you meant though. I mean, Michael Thomas is still there.
No, he's not playing the first. Week 7 is the earliest we'd ever see him in.
Yeah, week 8 actually because of the bye.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So there he goes for 3/4 of this fantasy season. So I'm not touching. I had some early shares of him in early drafts, but I'm like less than 3% on ownership in FFPC, thankfully. Right. So I'm not touching him. I've got him in a best ball draft the other day at like round 13, and that's like only the area I'm going to pull the trigger. And he doesn't hardly ever make it there. So if he does, great. I'll take a gamble there, but I'm not really doing much earlier than that.
Well, if you want to just run it back and have like a mini Herbert stack.
He took Herbert.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, he saved us from ourselves. That's fine.
Well, I didn't think that was going to happen, but like you said, listen, the McCaffrey team, and he took Evan Ingram. The McCaffrey teams, like they love to give you a little bit back in the middle. How
do you feel about Marquez Callaway? I mean, I'm not crazy about him, but he looked pretty good in preseason. He has pretty much the target share to himself because I don't think Smith is the answer. There's no tight end really. Or do you lean someone more like Mooney? Do you want to go to the running back here? What's
Mooney, Will Fuller, Hardman. I'm fine with those guys. I'm fine with Callaway too, because we have insurance here. My only problem with Callaway is he end up being a guy like that roster clogs midway through the season.
Let's shoot for the moon. Let's go Will Fuller.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Okay,
so Callaway I think is great. Where he goes in ADP, but my concern is that your roster is full, right? Like when we're looking at our setting lineups, say weeks 1 through 6, when we're rocking, if we had no injuries, are we ever going to play him over the guys we have, right? And then Michael Thomas comes back, and we still have a quarterback situation that we don't feel like the utmost confidence in, probably, even with Jameis. So like Callaway could also be one of those guys that like he has early value, but you struggle to put him in over some of the guys you have. That you've taken higher, and then when Michael Thomas comes back, he becomes like the target hog again. I mean, granted, Michael Thomas could just never come back and never be 100%. That's an out for you, but I do think that that is an outcome that still could happen for Callaway. And when Traquan comes back and it doesn't look as good, he would be the guy I would still bet on. But I worry that he doesn't really fit this build for us because we wouldn't play him over any of these guys, unless there's an injury.
Traquan Smith sucks. Like, he's not good. All that hype on him at the beginning of the year when Michael Thomas got hurt, it's like people failed to realize he has like 80 catches in 3 years of his career.
Right.
Like I'm not,
and that could happen to Hardman. We could very well have the same conversation with Hardman next year.
Oh, I know. And I like Hardman. I felt like they drafted him to replace Tyreek Hill, and then like nothing ever happened to Tyreek Hill. And they're like, oh, well, now. Yeah,
remember, it was the same time. It was in limbo. No one knew what was going to happen with Tyreek. And there was a lot of overlap to what Hardman did in college from a profile stance. I mean, there was really only one Tyreek Hill, and we've kind of find that out. But remember that was going on in the draft. People forget that happened, that trade up.
So we have a question here on being sniped because, I mean, we kind of got sniped. I wanted Herbert, but I was fine taking somebody else. But when your guy gets sniped, does it ruin your outlook on your team /year? How do you adjust? No, it doesn't ruin my outlook.
Not when he's a quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. If it was, and even if it's not, if it's a positional player, I am not a believer in I have to have this guy. Mm-hmm. I think, a draft, you got to be fluid. Be like water, as what's his name used to say. Bruce Lee, right? So you have to be fluid. You have to be, you have to be able to just adjust on the fly in drafts because that's what separates good drafters from bad drafters. People go on tilt. I've seen people quit drafts because they've been sniped a couple times, and when you're able to be fluid and when you're able to be, nimble and adjust on the fly, that's when you start making these great teams. And that's when you're going to separate yourself from the rest of these drafters. And so I don't like to don't get me wrong. I'll get pissed sometimes. Like it happens, right? Like your build's coming together. It's that last piece that you're thinking about. You've envisioned the board exactly how it plays down. Everything's working out. And then boom, your guy goes. Your whole build kind of is set off to the side, but you just adjust. You go for the next best positional player, and you look where you can improve your team moving on.
Yeah, and I think you nailed a lot of how I approach fantasy drafts. I am not someone that really attaches myself to players. You're never going to see me out there on Twitter being like, oh, that was the guy I called and stumped for a guy in the preseason. I am very much more into structural building than just climbing onto specific players. And when you structurally build, it also kind of prevents that snipage from really hurting you, right? Like, as long as you're locked into how you want to build this team from a structural stance, you still can operate within the tier, get a player at the same position, and because we're going to be so wrong in so many individual player takes, all of us, even the best of us. The best of us at prognosticating this stuff are like Shaquille O'Neal shooting free throws. So I mean, I never really
get good analogy.
I never really get into like just over attaching myself to a player take because we're going to be wrong on so much of it. And that's why structural building is so important. And I'm such someone that's going to tell you approach from building from a structural stance first and you'll be all right.
I could not agree more about structure. Every draft we see it, 2 to 4 players eliminate themselves just based upon poor structure of a roster.
Right.
And when you have good roster construction, even if you miss on players in your first early picks, or you're a victim of injuries like Cam Akers or Dobbins. If you structure your team well enough, you can overcome those injuries and still win your league. It breaks down to the grind in season. It breaks down to how well you set yourself up for success for the season based upon the roster that you constructed. Like when I look at my ownership, and I have over 100 FFPC leagues, my 7th most owned player is at 18%. So I like to diversify as much as I can, limit exposure everywhere, try to still get pieces of my guys everywhere that I can, but at the same time, building unique rosters, building, well-built roster construction teams to help your chances of success for these shootout matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it, man. That's why you operate in structure first. And we've seen kind of Team 11's doing it. I mean, Team 11 is just, they get Eckler and Waller. Like I said, Eckler's not my favorite anchor running back, but I totally get the bull case for Eckler. But, you see, they're just locked in on just hammering wide receiver after that. They're going to be the same thing. They're going to be probably wanting to snipe some of the guys we're targeting late in the running back position that we want to throw at our RB2 spot while we get the Sermon ramp-up period going.
Yeah, and that's when you look at and say, hey, we might take a running back earlier than we want as our dart throws, or we might take our third running back, one pick or one round earlier than we would have, because this guy's going to start hammering. He's going to start painting at green like we are pretty soon.
Yeah, and he also doesn't have a quarterback, so he's on the same you see a structure build happening right before our eyes down the line too. Team 1, no structure. They've already we've got nothing happening there. And typically in FFPC, you will see some people do something weird. It's whether it be quarterback or tight end.
No, there's structure. He likes symmetry. It's three of each. So he's going. He had 3 receivers, three running backs. So the next pick is going to be quarterback and tight end. He's going to do sets of 3s.
Yep, that's what we're working towards.
Oh.
But yeah, I don't know. Let's see. We're working back here, and
we've got quite so they can see the board.
We've got quite a ways to go before we pick. You don't want to get too excited about a player or nothing, because we got so many picks, and it's Wild West in the middle. It's literally any player can go at any time at this point.
Yeah, very true.
But we do have, at the quarterback position, we still have a Tannehill stack open to us. We also have, Jalen Hurts, if we want to do a little Konami guy, for his early season schedule. Trey Lance is still out there. Matthew Stafford's still out there. So we still have options there. Team 11 passed on a quarterback again, so that's one of the teams we don't have to worry about. Team 6 is the other one, although we might start seeing teams double tap like Team 1 did.
So I just assumed 11 was going to take a quarterback or a running back there, because you get to the point now talking about roster construction. He already has his starting wide receivers filled. He already has his flex filled, and then he has
insurance for the flex.
Insurance for the flex there as well. And he's loading up the bench when he still has starting rosters to fill. So I think in terms of construction, I don't hate it, but I would have probably gone a different direction either at the 9-10 turn, just based upon filling out your starting role, and since you already have insurance for your flex and for your wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we'll hate
see
it.
What Team 6 does.
We'll see what they do,
because we're not going to take a quarterback this pick regardless. It'll be coming back if we do.
I don't know. This guy's 3 of everything.
It's true. That's true. Yeah. Go nuts. Lock it up. All right.
Yeah, and honestly, there's 3 quarterbacks here that I am more than comfortable starting. There's one of them just went. Stafford just went. There's still 2 more on the board that I really like. So even if one more goes, we wait and we get them on pick 11, and I'm happy with that.
Okay, so we're probably looking at where we're up. We're going to probably go tight end or running back, I imagine.
Yep.
We have already kind of declared tight end kind of got picked over the guys we want. We can wait and take a dart, I think, a little bit later. We'll be approaching ADP on Gerald Everett, but that's fine because we don't need to start him. I think Cole Kmet, we could wait another come around. I don't know how.
I was going to say I like Kmet. I'd rather wait another round and take him. And worst case scenario, you have Andrews. If you have to start, or if you have to throw in a 3 tight end build and take someone late like an Arnold, I'm fine doing that as well. But
right, there'd be another wait. I think this is a wait on tight end turn for us.
I agree.
So we're at running back. We'll see what's left over at running back by the time we get up. We've got our darkness. We're in the darkness a little bit. That's okay. I mean, we've got Ronald Jones. We've got Michael Carter. We've got Jamal Williams. There's Ronald Jones off the board. I mean, I don't know where you're leaning here, where your mind is when you get into this group of running backs. I mean, I'm sure we're not far apart because we've built a lot of these teams that are like this, but curious where your mind is on this next tier of running backs that are coming up.
So the next tier of running backs, I like Jamal Williams. I like Kenyon Drake. Drake's shootout schedule sucks, but I think he is going to be utilized a lot more in the passing game. I like Jamal Williams simply because I think he's a better pass blocker than Swift and is going to be used on third downs more than people are anticipating. We talked about how bad this offense is and this defense is going to be. I think he's going to be on the field a lot during third downs. I like Michael Carter as well, but as Trey Sermon as our number 2, I may pass here on Carter just because 2 rookie running backs as our running back 2 and 3 kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety. James Conner, I think, is the goal line back in Arizona. I do have some durability concerns, but he was more productive last year than people think.
Yeah, he was.
As well. So doesn't matter. They didn't give us a chance, so he's gone. So I lean more either Jamal Williams, Drake, or Michael Carter.
Yeah, I mean, I have him Carter, Drake, Williams. I think Drake's got a little more probably like dual usage upside. I mean, Jamal Williams still probably needs an injury. But like you said, I mean, having 2 rookie running backs, I mean, I have done an article on this where it shows that guys like Michael Carter and Sermon are the bets to make when you have ambiguous ADPs and they involve a rookie. Big picture, those guys are going to be the guys to hit. And the doors got blown out on Javonte already, so we didn't have to do that this off season. He was great early in the off season, but the doors have been blown off. So I mean, I don't mind Carter too, because we're going to have more guys later. I feel like we can add a James White, we can add a Naheem Hines, we can add maybe a Gio Bernard and be able to play a guy at RB2. And bank on that upside, or even Ramondre Stevenson later, although he'll go a little bit earlier now that things have kind of broke his way. And Jamal Williams goes. So I would be Drake or Carter here, with real no pushback on either one. I think Carter probably has more of a runway without an injury. What
do you think about? I mean, I'm fine pushing quarterback at this point. I like Tannehill. That's really Tannehill or Hurts are the only ones I'd pick. I'm also willing to pass on him and take both Carter and Drake here. But I'm also okay just picking one or the other.
I would say let's take Carter.
Okay. Do tournament shoot for the moon. Let's do
it. Yeah. We're gonna, because I still feel like for our seasonal structure, we're fine.
Yes.
As far as being in the mix to win our league, win points, and I think we've got a really good build here.
We do.
Granted, stuff happens, guys get hurt, and things fall apart for us. But I really think our build is looking really good over the landscape. I feel really good about this roster. So we can try to mix in, like I said, a little bit tournament strategy with it too as well to kind of tack onto it. And if we can double tap Drake, I think we do it, because we're going to see this run. We saw the green start to go, right?
Yep.
So I would have no problem doing that, pushing quarterback and hoping Hurts or Tannehill makes it back. We will start to see teams double tap quarterback.
Yeah, we've already seen it.
Well, yeah. Well, other teams too, not just that. And then we've got options here in play coming back where we can take Cole Kmet or
there's
Hunter
still
Henry.
A lot of running backs I like as well, though, too. So I
reeled off a bunch. I mean, if you twisted my arm, I would say Tannehill over Hurts just for the stack purposes.
I'm leaning that way as well, and simply because too he doesn't have to look over his shoulder at someone trying to compete for the winning job. So I mean, I know they brought in Minshew, Mania. Hurts I think is the better talent, but you never know. And Tannehill has been playing lights out. I mean, you look back at what he has achieved here in this offense, and he has had arguably as good of a run as Patrick Mahomes, but very quietly.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a top 10 scorer in 16 of his starts with Tennessee. And I kind of told you about, we ran off with A.J. Brown, just that schedule to open. I mean, they're going to be forced to score points because they're not going to be playing, these anemic offenses. They do have some anemic offenses mixed in where we're going to get some Derrick Henry run. They do play the Jets. Although Jets I could see upside with the Jets. Making teams score points. There could be an efficiency bump there for the New York offense, but they're going to have to score against Kyler Murray. They're going to have to score against Russell Wilson because the defense is going to give up points to those offenses. And we get a little bit of our partnership with Arthur Wan as well, a little handshake there. So we're looking good.
Yeah, and now we have our all of our starting positions filled. We can start painting it green. We can start taking dart throws at running back. And there's a lot more running backs now in this area than there was 2 weeks ago. Just simply because we have clarity at the position with cuts. We have, the Cam Newton news opened up a lot of different aspects as well. So
yeah, we had Dobbins get hurt, so Edwards jumped, and
Tyson Williams is now a thing.
Yes. Very unique career, Tyson Williams. He played for he played for 3 colleges: UNC, South Carolina, and then BYU. He had a couple injuries, but yeah, he looked solid in the preseason. But the thing that I like for Tyson Williams, the bull case for him as a dart throw guy, is that the Ravens already hit on Gus Edwards. So success with Gus Edwards kind of gives them more leniency to say this worked out for us before. We can give this guy some more runway because we've ran into success going this route before.
Oh, the guy did it. I was wondering if he was going to take Hunter Henry and stack with Jonnu Smith. He did. He's got his New England stack here. He's got Damian Harris, Jonnu now, and Hunter Henry. Ooh, Terrace Marshall, my boy. I love Terrace Marshall.
Yep, same.
Last night we did a sleeper podcast, and Terrace Marshall was one of my main sleeper picks. I love him. He has he dominated preseason too. He had the most fantasy points per target in preseason. I understand it's preseason, but he locked up this number 3 wide receiver role here for the Panthers. He has why am I blanking on the OC's name that came over from college that he's familiar with?
Yeah, Joe Brady.
Thank you. He has history with Joe Brady. Terrace Marshall's a man, and he's going to just be manhandling these DBs. He's going to be just punking on them. And I'm infatuated. I should play love music right now. I think I have it. It's right here. We can talk about Terrace Marshall.
Yeah, and people forget that in 2019, before Terrace Marshall hurt his foot, he had more receptions than Jamar Chase and more touchdowns than both Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase before he had his foot injury. So, you're speaking my language. I love getting a Carolina receiver in as many drafts as possible. We didn't get one here, but I also love what Terrace Marshall does for the other Carolina receivers because it's not Curtis Samuel. Him being in the slot is a little different, right?
Yes.
It gives, and we've seen this a little bit, and it was only one game sample size in the preseason, but it's going to not force DJ Moore just to be the lid lifter like he was last year. There's going to be more diversification between these receivers now, but having Terrace Marshall be the big slot as opposed
he's a
to
6'2" slot receiver versus 5'11" or whatever he was.
So this offense is going to look, the receiver deployment is going to be different than it was last year as well. I love getting a Carolina receiver in just about every draft.
In preseason, he had a 20.1 yard per reception average. That's league leading. I know it's preseason. I'm not going to get my panties in a twist and get all hyped up about it, but I am. He looked amazing, and even if he's able to carry over 75% of that, he's going to have a phenomenal year.
Yeah, listen, I'm for it. He's one of my favorite picks at this stage of the draft. We happen to just, our structure kind of led us to not go back to the well, but I love him in this area of the draft.
I miss the days when you were getting him in around 15 and 16. It's just gone are those days.
Yeah, I'm a little sad Robbie re-upped. Not that it really matters, because if Terrace Marshall's not as good as Robbie Anderson, then our eval was wrong anyways. But, especially in those keeper formats, I was looking for that big runway to open up in 2021 or 2022.
Yeah, I think this offense can support all three, though.
It will.
It definitely puts a damper on his dynasty outlook, but I do think that Terrace Marshall will command a target share, and they're gonna. This offense is gonna be better than people think, and that's why I like Sam Darnold. I'm fine pushing back quarterback because, you have Sam Darnold, you have Christian McCaffrey, you have Terrace Marshall, you have DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. This team is going to be tough to defend, and then you have the Carolina defense, which is less than stellar. So add in that attribute, and we're talking about kind of a Dallas Cowboy light from last year in terms of scoring and how their defense is going to interact with opposing teams and having shootouts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally looking at it's all up to Darnold, man. It really so much falls on Darnold. We can just get some adequate QB play. All those guys, I think, have been really good values all summer. Like I said, I often very much get at least one of those guys in every draft.
I'm hoping that it was the Gase effect, right? We saw it with Ryan Tannehill. We saw it with Drake. So we have, Darnold now has been released from the dark evilness of Adam Gase, and he's just set on his way to blossom and flourish over here in Carolina.
But yeah, that's a lot for a player we didn't get. But if you're still drafting, get Terrace Marshall.
There's my other boy there, Brian Edwards too.
Yep.
Especially with the release yesterday of John Brown. I think Brian Edwards, a true Alpha X build, I think takes a major step forward here in 2021.
Yeah, I agree. Them, and especially them, just outright, granting Smoke his release, just gives a good runway to those guys. Like I talked about the Raiders' offense earlier. Like they were a lot better than I think people think that they were. Like I said, they were 6th in scoring rate per drive last year. They were an efficient offense. We'll see how just getting rid of your whole offensive line does in one offseason and how quickly those guys come together. But we see our guy at Team 11 finally went back to a running back. Well, he took James White after Justin Fields as his QB1.
I like James White, but I'm used to taking him in like 14 and 15. I knew he's going to start climbing boards once Cam was released.
Do you think J.J. Taylor has any shot to contribute? He was so good in the preseason. Like,
I think it's going to be...
He could be Deion Lewis kind of ish.
Man, I think he's going to start off as healthy scratches. And
it's going to be him or Ramondre still.
I think it's going to be Ramondre simply because of goal line. I think that he's going to come in and take some goal line work from Sony just because he looked very good at the goal line in preseason. I think that was part of the reason why they let Sony go was based off the preseason that Ramondre had. So I think as good as JJ looked, I think that JJ is kind of the odd man out, but it is Bill Belichick, and you never know what that evil man's going to do. He could deploy all 4 every week, and
there's Ramondre.
We're going to be pulling our hair out week in and week out. We have a question here from a listener. I got to have Terrace Marshall in my league. Wrong to reach in round 10. I'm targeting both him and Rondell Moore. Love these guys as prospects and their situations. So I am not a guy that you're going to want to ask about reaching or not reaching because I don't care about ADP. I'll take whoever I want whenever I want. If a guy's my guy.
And you definitely shouldn't care then.
Yeah, and especially if you're that late in drafts, especially if you believe in him. I say, quite frankly, just get your guy, right? Go out and do your thing because you're going to hate yourself if it comes down to like week 2 or 3 and he's just going beast mode on people and you're like, man, I should have taken him around earlier than I wanted to. So get your guy. Don't worry about ADP. Zig whenever everybody zags and beat to your own drum. Just get your guy. Yeah,
especially like I said, we talked about it a couple rounds ago where we said basically any player can go at any point right now.
Yep.
And that's when you get to that area of the draft, like you're going to have to jump because trust me, someone else is looking at Rondell Moore in your league. Someone else is looking at Terrace Marshall. Like you're not the only person that knows.
Yeah, very true. So we're coming around the turn here. We still have Gerald Everett on the board. We still have Cole Kmet on the board.
Yeah, we're looking good about those guys still there. Let's see, what do we got left? We've got Gio Bernard if we want to chase just the PPR floor. We have Chuba Hubbard if we want to just have another bench guy. Although he's a guy like he's not going to give us anything outside out one outcome. We probably want to at least have someone that could be in the mix for playing for us early in the season.
What's your thoughts on Damian Williams with Tariq Cohen heading to the pup?
Yeah, I mean, he probably needs still an opening, like an injury. I don't know how much individual flex value he'll have, like as opposed to like a Gio Bernard. But obviously if David Montgomery was banged up, that's a runway. But I'm not 100% sure that there is a lot of, flex value there. I mean, I would say like maybe even a guy like Tevin Coleman has more initial flex value than him. But I could be wrong on that. It could be more of a split than I'm assuming.
I think it's going to be more of a split simply because of the Nagy connection, right?
The other thing is that that offensive line is absolutely horrible.
It is pretty bad.
They just signed 39-year-old Jason Peters to kind of just like get them a body.
Just sit there, please. Don't let people buy you.
It is rough, man. It is rough, that Bears offensive line. That's gonna be a problem all year, especially paired with a guy like Fields, who I like Fields, and he's a guy you want to play behind a bad offensive line. But Fields is also a guy that, like Deshaun Watson, he takes long to process his reads. That's just how he was at Ohio State, because he wants to make big plays. That's Deshaun Watson's the same way. Like, these guys don't want to check down; they want to make big plays, and that's Justin Fields has that gene in him. Like, he wants to make huge plays, so he'll hold the ball. Which, is going to be an adventure behind this offensive line. But we saw that early with Deshaun Watson's career behind the Houston offensive line.
Cute. This guy thought we were going to take Madison. I don't handcuff.
No.
I think we take the tight end, and then on our way back, take the running back that we prefer. I feel like this guy is going to take a tight end here on this turn. And
yeah, I would agree. I do have Everett over Komet. No pushback if you do. They're my next two guys. So if you have a preference.
No, I have them both very similar. I think I have Everett above Komet without checking. I think they're very close, but I like the Seattle offense better. So
yeah, again, that's as a tiebreaker, you're getting attachment to Russell Wilson.
Yeah, so I'd say I'll lock in Everett here, and let's start looking at running backs.
Yeah, we'll have to have a conversation. Between the Geos, the Lindsays, the Damian Williams of the world.
I'm kind of just staying away from Houston. That's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Damian Williams. He probably doesn't make it back. Looking at ADP, kind of where we are on the board.
I'm fine. I'm underweight on Bernard. I'm not crazy about Bernard just because I feel like
he's gotten really no touch. He really has no touchdown upside.
No, it's all PPR upside.
Yeah, he's literally just a shade below James White. Oh, he handcuffs McCaffrey.
And he took a kicker, of course. He did not take a tight end. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Team one, giving you something back.
I'm underweight on Gio. So if it sounds like you like Gio, I'm fine taking him.
I like him for this build. It's like I believe that there's not a huge upside in him. Like, there's no path for him to score touchdowns. But he's a guy you can play. Like, if we don't want to play Sermon or Carter week 1, we can play Gio if we had to.
Okay, let's throw him in. I'm fine with it.
But I do think that they're the full.
My only
upside
concern
plays.
with him is with Rojo. Rojo is going to be on 1 and 2s as well as Lenny. Lenny is also a very capable pass catcher, so that's where I felt like Lenny may eat into some of Gio's touches in the pass catching. But then again, they went out and got him. We saw in
preseason he played every single third down,
which is where I kind of say, hey, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he is the only de facto third down back.
Yeah, the thing with Lenny's been interesting because that's not really kind of the archetype Lenny's been, right? Like, was it just a product of circumstance the last 2 years where Jacksonville had to throw so many passes to him, and then he was used over Rojo because Keyshawn Vaughn didn't elevate, and then LaShawn McCoy just didn't.
And Rojo has brick hands.
Right. Was it just so does he really cut into Gio, or was it just the process of the teams he's been on the last 2 years that they had to throw to him? So we'll see how that plays out. But I do think that there's really no path for Gio to score touchdowns.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate, unless it's from like 20 out or further.
Yeah, we might see some like receiving touchdowns, but you can't count on those. Like, it's hard to count on those. What other running backs do you look at? We've got Damian if he makes it. What other guys do you look at like when you're going to these types of builds later on?
Oh, this is my wheelhouse right here. This is where I flourish. So I like Damian Williams. I like doing what I call the double up. I'll double tap Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon. So that way, if anything ever happens to CEH, you have the de facto starter there. I don't know if I said it, but I like Darrington Evans simply because of tournament standpoint. If anything were to happen to Derrick Henry, he's had 368 touches the last 2 years. And Darrington Evans looked explosive. Yes, there's injury concerns, but I think that they utilize him on third downs more this year.
Yeah, the other thing is that also fits our current build with we're already invested in the Titans passing side of the equation. So he does fit that as well.
So I like him a lot. I've been throwing in Booker late just because of Saquon.
If you get a game.
Yep, you're going to get a game out of him, especially with this build. Then we'll get a game out of him early and be able to worry about week 2 after that. And then I've been mixing in Ty Johnson as well, just because he was utilized. It gives us another option, kind of that double up again with Michael Carter. I've
also
been
an explosive player. Ty Johnson was an explosive athlete coming out of Maryland.
I've been throwing in Quadri just because he's the only really running back outside of Mike Davis in that offense, unless you count Cordell Patterson, which I don't. Tyson Williams, another name now that we've already talked about. I've been throwing in. Let me see here. I'm getting kind of deep now. I'll throw in Latavius Murray, but not till I'd probably say around 15. I still think there's a chance he's cut.
We got a defense off the board.
Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing defenses and kickers go. It seems like one of those rooms. It's not as bad as Midnight Madness. I do a lot of my drafts at 9 p.m. Pacific time, and you get the East Coasters who are tired. You get the people who are drinking, and there's just those boards are wild, man. Like they're real wild. There's some crazy builds in those things.
Yeah, you always see some fun builds. I saw a tweet from Dwayne McFarland and Ian Hartitz of a draft they did the other day where the team 2 just went like crazy, took like 8 straight running backs. It's like I'm never in a room with that. They took 2 receivers the whole draft. They took 2 wide receivers the entire, and one was AJ Green. They took Terrace Marshall and AJ Green, the only 2 wide receivers they selected.
Oh man. Ooh. You know what that is?
Bye-bye.
You just eliminate yourself.
Yeah, thanks for the donation.
Yeah. That's what we call the rake, folks.
Yep. Team 11 probably should double tap Green. They might go another quarterback just to have insurance for Fields. But quarterbacks, I mean, they could take, Burrow already went to, so yeah, they go Latavius.
Oh, I forgot to mention Coleman too with this build with Marshall. You kind of lock in the starter with him or with Ty Johnson.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I like either of those guys.
Alex Collins is the name now I've been adding with him kind of securing that number 2 position.
I've been taking Dwayne Eskridge a lot too at the 20th pick. I've shifted to that too, just in case something happens now that he's healthy. But yeah, round 20 picks. Donald Parham, round 20 pick.
Chris Evans has been another guy in round 20 I've been taking.
Yeah, Captain America, Cincy Captain America. Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, all those guys that were part of the khaki brigade that Harbaugh mushed there, we see them have a lot better. We see Peoples-Jones, Nico Collins probably will have a better career than Harbaugh held him back. All those players, everyone except for who was the quarterback they had transfer there.
I'm blanking.
From Ole Miss. I can't think of his name that transferred there. Eluded me. Someone help me out if there's anyone in the chat. The Chiefs, he was on the Chiefs practice squad last year and he got cut. He started that last year. Gosh, it's killing me right now.
I can't think of him for the life of me right now.
His last name begins with an M. It's God. It's killing me. Oh well.
I'm Googling it.
Yeah, all those guys.
It's not Jordan Tamu, is it? No.
No.
I have no idea, actually.
And there's Lindsay. I can look it up. Might as well at this point because it's just killing me.
Yeah, we're going to be 3 rounds later still trying to think of it.
I was hoping it would come to me because I could picture the player and I picture everything.
While you're looking it up, who was your biggest surprise cut yesterday?
I was surprised that QT got cut. I mean, granted, it's not like a huge fantasy implications, but I was surprised he got released.
Especially after the Anthony Miller injury.
Well, and QT's one of those guys, like, we've seen it kind of with, like, Rashard Higgins. Like, anytime that they've had to play him, he's been good.
Yeah,
and then they just kind of
had double-digit target games.
Shea Patterson was the guy that I was thinking of.
Oh, yeah. That's easy. That's an easy name to forget.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, anytime QT's had to get targets and, like, a team's had to play him, he's been good. And then just kind of team forgets about him. I was really bummed that Rashard Higgins re-signed with the Browns this year. I thought he would have been great, like, on the Chiefs. Like, because he's been a low-leverage signing for them, fit their wheelhouse. Because anytime Rashard Higgins has gotten targets, he's been really good. Jacoby Myers was that when it finally looks like it's going to be unlocked. Anytime Jacoby Myers has had to play, he's been good. And I feel like that was Higgins. I was really bummed because he re-signed before free agency even came. I was like, what is going on, man? Hit the market.
So you know who I feel about the same way, but it's a running back, is Royce Freeman. Like, what the hell, man? Like, so he was finally cut today. Thank you, Jesus, because I feel like they just wasn't utilized right inside Denver. And like when he's been on the field, he's been productive. I feel like there's a landing spot for him right now.
Yeah, I mean there should be. Hopefully not Houston, but there should be.
They're just adding anybody and everybody. Something if you throw enough on the wall, it sticks.
But yeah, Royce is a prospect I liked coming out, and just never got kind of a fair opportunity. And granted, that could be a product of him just not being good enough. But
if he's added to Baltimore, where would you start taking him?
Yeah, I mean, definitely take some flyers on him and feel a lot better in Dynasty. Anywhere I'm hanging on to him. Oh,
that's pretty much where I own him is Dynasty. All my sad shares. I was too stupid to quit Corey Davis, and I'm too stupid to quit Royce Freeman as well. And luckily,
hey, Corey Davis is looking good. Corey Davis, man,
finally panned out. I had I had some pretty rough years though.
Yeah, it's looking real good on the Corey Davis front at this point. He was also another guy. I still think he's underdrafted at this point, but it's finally started to come around. He was going like in the wide receiver 50s for a long time.
Oh yeah, he was going in like that 10-11 range for quite some time. Now he's in the 40s. All right, we're approaching here. So Booker just went. Not as much green as I anticipated, which is a good thing for us. So
yeah, we lost out on Damian, but we knew that was kind of a risk.
So for here, I'm leaning.
I would be fine locking Evans in.
Okay, I like Evans here. I also like taking Tevin Coleman to lock in our starter for Week 1 as Michael Carter develops. I'm also fine, taking a Darrell Williams or a Jerick McKinnon. So I'm really okay with any of those guys. But I own a lot of Darrington Evans. So
it's a Team 5. I was listening to the show.
I hate you, Team 5.
We shouldn't even have said his name. We blew it.
We got sniped.
Someone asked about getting sniped. That time I was a little upset.
Yeah, exactly. I'm tilting. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Rich is finishing the draft alone. I'm out.
Well, it was such a nice because it fit from like a tournament perspective. It fit our build so well.
It did. Okay.
But yeah, if you want to take Tevin Coleman here.
I just feel like now, like you thought you were getting Rocky Road and you just got vanilla. Like it.
We wanted both.
Yeah. You could take a double scoop in a cone.
Yeah. Do you dabble in any Kenny Gainwell?
I do. I don't own a lot, but I like the prospects, and I especially after the Kurion cut or and also Jordan Howard cut. I think not like any of those guys were going to do anything, but I just think there's less cooks in the kitchen now, and he has, I think, opportunity to succeed.
Yeah, I see him very much as like a Nyheim Hines like type player.
Yeah, I could see that.
Probably is another guy, like if something were to happen to Miles Sanders, we still would see Boston Scott.
I think so too.
That's the same thing. Yeah, that's why I say Nyheim Hines-ish, where like, he doesn't become the he's not like he's a handcuff or anything. But what do we want to do? Do we want to go Darrell Williams here?
I like Darrell over Gainwell because if anything happens to CH, Darrell's the starter.
Same. And there's still like a thin out that he even could be the goal line back.
Yeah, I think we have a better chance of success with him. And we saw what he was able to do down the stretch too. So I think that he's the play here for me.
Yeah, I think that's what we lock in.
And then that gives us a possibility of taking McKinnon later if he makes it back and kind of securing the 1-2 punch there. And if anything happens to CH, then we're dialed.
Yeah, we've got 3 open slots still that we get to play with.
I'm going to start throwing a bunch of backs in here still. So I'm going to throw Gainwell in here, McKinnon.
Tyson.
I got Quadri-Olson, Tyson. Yeah, might as well take
Although I bet we see Tyson go.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's 2. Oh, yeah, Tyson. I had a Ty Johnson, too.
Oh, Ty Johnson. Yeah.
Olsen I already added, yes.
Yeah, because that's the interesting thing with Tony Jones, although, Sean Payton's declared him the 2 back to our conversation we had with Gainwell. But if something happens to Kamara, do we still see Latavius? Like it's a difference when you say he's the RB2 on the depth chart versus if something were to happen to Alvin Kamara, he would be in this role. Those are two different conversations.
I completely agree. Like, so perfect example is Nyheim Hines, right?
Right.
If anything were to happen to Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines is not the 1-2 back. It's going to be Wilkins, and Hines is going to keep that role. Yes, he'll get sprinkled in more, but he's never going to be the guy. He's not going to have all the carries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, this is where we get in the nitty gritty. This is where leagues are won, folks, right here. This is tournament play. This is where we go. So when you look back at builds that I did earlier in the year, and I have a team where I had, Darrell Henderson in double-digit rounds. I had Gus Edwards in double-digit rounds, and then you have players up top like Darren Waller or Kelsey with all those wide receivers. Those are the teams when you're facing in tournaments that you have to worry about because they had such discounted value, and they're getting players that late in drafts where now they're going 5, 6, 7 rounds higher in ADP. The other one was James Robinson, right? Getting him in round 7, 8, 9 at times, where now he's going in round 3 and 4. So that's the benefit of drafting earlier. There's also the downfall of, hey, you may have been an Akers owner. I definitely am a Dobbins owner, right? So you have those shares as well. But that's why we build teams this way, and that's why we construct rosters this way.
Yep.
And you take these throws on running backs like this late in drafts. People who only do 1 or 2 leagues, this build isn't for you. Like, you want to build something more confined league style. You're probably not going to win a $500,000 doing it, but at the same time, you're definitely protecting your assets more by building a more confined league draft. But when you're playing tournament, you're playing volume. You have to construct rosters this way and load up on running backs late in drafts.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why early in the offseason, this type of build, like you said, is just so successful because you only really benefit, right? Like there's only pros to be gained from this type of build. Granted, like I said, we're in the 11th hour, but things will open in season too as well. But that's why
it's the most volatile position. I mean, injuries happen every single year, and the other thing is, like, it's not like you're wasting, high draft capital on these type of players. Like, we already filled out our starting rosters. We already have our insurance players as well. These are literally dart throws. If it doesn't pan out, then they're waiver wires. And
we'll be cutting a couple of these guys, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Right. All my Jared Dokes shares are being cut week 1. Right.
Yep. 100%. There's Tyson Williams. Yeah, yep. I figured he was gonna go in these 20 picks. You do. I mean, you're the same boat. You've done enough of these. You kind of know. It's like, all right, well, if we pass here, then there's no chance.
Yep, exactly.
But we talked earlier about the tight ends.
Yeah, and there's and the real reason why I picked Darrell Williams over Tyson there is that there is a chance that the Ravens still bring in a vet, and at that point, Tyson Williams now is the third option and not the second option. And now he goes back to round 18, 19, 20, or not back, I should say. He slips to 18, round 19, 20, and Darrell Williams is still the number 2.
Are you entertaining a backup quarterback at all?
No, I don't. I am not a believer in a backup quarterback. I will play the waiver wire. If I need one week 1, since you have those 2 waiver runs for week 1, you have the Tuesday night and then you have Saturday night. So worst case scenario, you can pick one up Saturday night if you need them. I'm a firm believer in taking, more dart throws and then adjusting for week 1 waivers.
Yep. All right. We're locked in there. So we know we're going to use 3 spots on just skill players.
And don't even get me started on 2 defenses. I'll never do it.
No, we're not doing it. There's no way you're going to. Do you always wait on defense, or are you a person that likes the lock-in one if you like one?
I'll lock it if I like it. If it comes around, I'm like, you know what? I can wait another round on a running back. I'm okay with the next 4 or 5, and there's a defense that slips to me. I'll take the defense.
Because there is a defense I really like. After
don't say it. Teams 5 listening.
After Darrington Evans, when I'm scared to even bring it up at this point. Maybe I think Team 5 is in here, man.
We're listening. We know your ways, Team 5.
Yeah, that was a punch in the stomach.
It only took us 14 rounds to figure it out, but hey, we're here.
It was the only time you sniped us, but we're gonna hold you accountable. 14 round 14.
We have a comment here. 2 defenses to play defense on your opponent is a good call. Yes, it works every year. Tyrell Williams and MVS. Those are more best ball picks for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've dabbled a little bit with just darts on Tyrell Williams at this point, but not. He's not. By now, I'm like typically like this, where I've got 6 or 7 wide receivers already.
Yep. I had to count because I can't look at that in my head and see 2 and 2 and 2. Apparently. Yes, Billy, that's 6.
Yeah. I'm surprised we couldn't coax some more kickers out of these folks.
I know. I was hoping after the Butker pick we'd see a run, but
we are getting the D's. They're going now.
Yes, they are. There's still 2 that I really like on the board.
There's definitely one that I typically target that we'll see what happens.
Oh, there he goes. Team 5, where we're picking kicker. You better take one. He wants Justin Tucker. Take him. Just take him, Team 5. You want Justin Tucker.
Yeah, the Yongwei Koo just draft last year's highest scoring kicker, and hope that works out again.
Offense is so different.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I do like.
I mean, plus
fact
like there's a couple guys like that. You had Daniel Carlson and Jason Sanders too. Like those guys, the way their teams had relied on kicking field goals is hard to sustain.
The thing I do like about Koo is this defense you liked. Was it Denver?
It was.
I like Denver too. They have a really, really good schedule.
The opening 3 weeks are just tremendous.
Oh,
we did it twice.
No.
Oh, we got hit twice. The late rounds, man.
Now I push it because there's another defense I like that won't be picked because of their
Denver was the one I was locked in on. So
yeah, okay. So I'd say for me then, let's look at the running backs again. It's either Gainwell, Ollison. We could lock in Ty Johnson and just lock that whole thing up, but I think that's a little too much to spend on one backfield.
Yeah, a Jets backfield too.
Their offensive line is improved. But
I would say Gainwell just for a little bit of upside and maybe floor. He could be not Naheem Hines.
Okay.
Naheem Hines. Then we'll come back with we can go with another one or.
Okay, I'm gonna lock in Gainwell. On the way back, I like Ollison just because I don't think he's like that good of a talent, but there's literally nobody behind Mike Davis.
I also like in this area KJ Hamler is a guy I look at. And
for a receiver.
Your silence seemed to say a lot about that.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, so I mean we already took a Chief, we took our 2 Jets. Yeah, I mean receivers are pretty thin. We're at what, Paris Campbell zone?
Yeah, Paris Campbell I'd like over Kamler if we did to go a receiver.
I would be fine with that as well. Just adding another guy that has some upside, especially in an offense where it could be an undetermined target tree.
With Hilton out too.
Yeah, and it could be a situation like no one knows. It could easily be a thing where he leads the Colts receivers and targets. We don't like that. That's still non-zero. Like there's no guarantee Pittman is the leading target getter for the Colts.
Yeah, it's a valid
Although
point.
he's the favorite, but there's no guarantee.
I like it. I like Paris Campbell. I own a lot of them. Let's lock it in.
All right, let's go that route. It gives us another upside dart, another guy to play.
And then now we have one more dart throw, and then we have our kicker and our defense.
Yeah, Denver and Darrington Evans coming for us.
I swear to God, if Denver's the number 1 defense and Derrick Henry gets down, I'm gonna flip.
It'd have been the perfect build. But yeah, Denver has been my go-to for sure.
So we have a question here. What's your portfolio like? How many single leagues versus tourney leagues? Do you want to answer that one first, or I can pull mine up? I'm gonna take a look here.
I mean, we're counting these and main events as tournaments, though, right? Like they're such a they're like a you got a bird in each hand, right? Because you still can that's why I love the FFPC format so much is because you have so many. I love the payout structure. There's so many outs. You know, you can have a team that wins but doesn't score a lot of points, and you win your league, and you cash out that way. You score the more points, win that way. You win your league and the playoffs. Then you get into the tournament. I just love, that's why I love it. It's the best. I don't love tight end premium, but I love this payout structure the most. So I mean, yeah, if we're counting these as tournaments, then it's definitely going to skew towards these. You know, these MEs.
Confined leagues, I'm in probably 25 to 30 confined leagues. And then in tournament play, FFPC, main events, FBGs, I'm not going to count best ball, but I guess you should. But
I don't count that. There's a separate bucket.
That's a separate, yeah, exactly. My wife's like, "How many drafts a year do you count best ball?" She's like, "Did you draft it?" Yes. I said, "But you don't manage it." She goes, "But did you draft it?" Yes. So yeah, I definitely play more tournaments. I'm probably 100 plus in terms of tournament entries between FBGs, main events, and FFWC, and then probably 25 to 30 on the confined leagues.
Yeah, I've got 5 mains this year, and then I'll do like 25 or so of these, so less than you. But I mean, then I'm in 23 dynasty leagues. So those are ones I've got to manage and kind of lock onto, and then just seasonal, like confined seasonal leagues, I only do like 5 to 7, like in that area.
Yeah, next week I have a couple biggies coming up. I have the High Society here on FFPC, which is a confined league, but it's that's the one that's the biggie. That's where I warm up to all year round.
And then they said we talked a little bit before the show. We'll make a point to try to do Vegas one year.
Oh yes, I'm definitely going next year. It's on my bucket list. I definitely want to get it done. I want to do the bare knuckle challenge. That thing looks so much fun. Have you seen that?
No, I'm not aware of that.
So bare knuckle challenge is no notes, no electronics, nothing.
I'm okay with that.
You go into the draft off your mind only, and you can have one partner, and you can swap at only one time during the draft. So it's 28 rounds, and you pick. Okay. So I think best philosophy is you pick 14, then your partner picks 14, and then you go from there. You probably swap halfway or whatever it may be. So one of you memorize ADP, the front or back, or however you want to do it. But I'm definitely want to do that next year.
That sounds great. I think that is a format for me as well. Just because we've drafted some of these teams, like you heard us talking earlier about, just like, well, we'll know this player's going to go. We know where we're at. Yeah, I like that. Sounds really intriguing. I have not even really kind of checked that out. That sounds great.
Yeah, it's I've never done it, but it's if I'm going to Vegas next year, I swear I'm doing it. Like, there's no questions about it.
All right, man. Listen, we'll make some tentative pre plans.
We have a guy thanked us. Okay, you're welcome.
We've got one more fun pick, kicker defense. I don't want to say any names at this point because we're getting killed this way coming back.
Yeah, second half snipers. They figured out we're streaming.
Yeah.
So that for streaming, it wasn't bad. I felt like we didn't get sniped very often.
No, we're all right.
I have had times where like everything I was saying was going. I'm like, okay, enough, people. I'm going to start listing numbers now in my queue.
No, we didn't run into that, and this room was filled anyways prior. So. Oh
yes, it was. That's true. Yeah, we filled last week, I think.
Yeah, we tried to make this happen last week, and it didn't fill, and then we locked into a spot, and it was filled early, so it worked out.
Yeah, it did. And I like the team. It's definitely
this is a lot like the teams I have.
Me too. Yeah. And there's some familiar names on here. I own a lot of Mike Will. I own a lot of T. Higgins. I own a lot of Chenault. I love whenever I can get Cook, you get him. But I do have to say the running back stabs. There's a couple names on here that I have just not been going towards. Like, I don't have a lot of Geo and I don't own a lot of Gainwell. I have shares. Don't get me wrong, but they're not in the double digit, in terms of ownership. They're all in like that 5 to 7% range. So yeah, this is good for my portfolio.
Yeah, that's how they kind of are for me too, for the reasons you laid out. There's not really a runway for them to be the 1-2 back and to be the touchdown scorer, which is why I think the same way as you, they're a little bit lesser owned in my portfolio as well. It's just kind of what we have to work with around here.
So now we have guys taking two defenses. So I'll hold off on any defense talk until we get closer. But there is still. Let me pull up I had the wrong draft room pulled up. I was on the clock. Another one. There's still 2-3 defenses that I like.
And I mean, this team 11 took Cleveland as their first defense, and maybe and they open with the Chiefs. Like, cool.
That's a tough week 1, but outside that, I think. Yeah,
I do like the Browns defense though. I do.
If I remember right, their first few weeks are pretty tough.
Well, they Houston week 2, so maybe he's looking at that. And they have the Bears also. I think the Bears week 3. So Houston, the Bears.
No, I'm thinking their shootout schedule. Their shootout schedule is tough, I think, then.
But early in the season, Packers, it does. Outside of the Chiefs, they do have a kind of okay open here. So maybe he's just like saying, well, I'm going to get my defense now. I'll eat the Chiefs' bullet to have 3 weeks of defense that I'm higher on.
Oh, there goes the defense I was thinking in my head, too. Their first 3 weeks are Carolina.
Yep.
They have Jets, New Orleans, and Houston.
And I like Carolina's defense from upside stance. They could still be bad, but they've got a lot of young players that I think are good, and it could come together as early as this year. You add Hassan Reddick. I think Brian Burns is that next guy ready to make the jump as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
And you add Hassan Reddick outside of him. You add A.J. Boye. You add J.C. Horn. This is a team that played a ton of zone last year and play a lot more man. I think Jeremy Chin is one of the more flexible safeties. So they have young players, but if it does come together, I mean, it could be. I think it could be a surprisingly decent to good defense. We've got a 33 quarterback build now, pick 8, with Russell Wilson. So it's not even like you're taking shots.
Nope.
Yeah, defense. We are in the back.
I'm fine
here.
streaming defenses too.
Well, I think we're definitely in the boat where we are streaming, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't think that there's anyone we're gonna lock in at this point. I mean, Seattle has a good week 1 matchup if we don't get Wentz. Maybe if we do get Wentz. Minnesota plays the Bengals, who could be one of these teams that just is slow to start. The Giants play the Broncos, which sinks because now Teddy's not going to turn it over. We've got
all these defenses have tough early matchups too. I mean, Indy has a tough first 3 games. Chargers.
I mean, the Chargers could be an okay hit because you're getting Fitzpatrick. You just never know. Fitzpatrick might give you a couple.
I say let's take a running back stab and then take the defense on the next pick.
Yep, I'm for it. Do you want to take? Allison just went.
I'd say either Alex Collins. We could take in Boston Scott and just lock in that backfield now outside Sanders, or we could take. Let's see who else is here. 29 seconds. Chris Evans is a good dart throw. Anybody else?
Yeah, Ahmed. Anything on Ahmed?
Yeah.
He probably. He went already. Never mind. He went. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's go Chris Evans.
Okay.
I like Chris Evans. A little upside.
Yeah, exactly. And Mixon isn't the most durable back, anyways.
Well, and the way they've used him too, maybe leaves the door open that he could maybe have a passing down role too.
Kind of take on that geo role.
I mean, him catching that, they split him out and he just beats that linebacker. I mean, granted, it's a Dolphins second string linebacker, but hey, you like to see the utilization.
Okay, do you want kicker here or defense here? I almost think we take a kicker over the defenses that are left.
Where are you at on kickers? I like I like Robbie Gould a lot. Their opening schedule is really good.
Yep, and they have a good shootout match.
Yeah, I like Robbie Gould a lot.
Okay, let's do Robbie Gould. I'm not going to argue with a Niner.
and they're also and Shanahan also is one of those guys that he's a little cowardice, man.
He'll kick it.
4th downs. They're going to kick.
Yeah, and the offense is going to get down the field, and I'll be the first to say it. Jimmy G has failed to capitalize on drives at times. So
yeah.
Robbie Gould's going to be kicking field goals, and they're fair weather.
Yeah, we like that. So, yeah, we're basically down to just the defense that we're going to pick for week 1 because even the Chargers went. I wish Drew Lock was playing. We could have played the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Seattle, and you just take a chance that maybe Wentz doesn't play and they have to play Eason.
I'm gonna pull up all the schedules here for week 1.
But we're definitely in the streaming boat.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because we'll have some of these defenses will be cut that people picked up.
Yep.
Always.
Rather than looking up each team individually, I should just type in week 1 schedule.
That would I mean, I got it too. I mean, we've got Seattle versus the Colts, Minnesota against the Bengals. If you just don't believe they're on the offensive line, you're just like Burrow's slow to start. Then it's really dicey. Because where are we? I'm trying to look at. I mean, you've got the Packers, who may be Jameis. Packers against Jameis. It's not going to be a home game now. If you saw, they're moving that game out of New Orleans.
Yeah, they're going to be in Tampa, right?
Yeah, so I mean, that's really, I mean, because then you're talking about like we can't play some of these other teams.
I mean, Jerry Alexander's probably going to pick off Winston 4 times.
Yeah, I mean, I would lean there. So I mean, yeah, Packers, Seahawks, Vikings is kind of what we're stuck with.
I'm really disappointed that Carolina went.
Yeah, Carolina. Well, Denver and Carolina were the two. Team 1 is a disaster, and I hope they're not listening.
Jacksonville has Houston week 1.
Yeah, Jacksonville. You just go wild. Tyrod is not a turn it over guy though. It stinks too. He's
also not a throw it 30 times either kind of guy.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't take sacks. He does take a decent amount of sacks, but he's not a high turnover guy, which stinks.
Maybe they'll stab him in the lung again, and we'll get Davis Mills.
Yeah. Once Davis Mills starts playing games, because Davis Mills is going to start games this year.
Well, they're going to have to.
Yeah, once he starts games, I mean, they're going to see he was bad in the preseason too, but there's no reason why he won't start games. Like, there's no reason for them to play Tyrod the whole year.
Well, no, they're going to have to figure out what they have in Mills before they go out and address the position.
Because they're going to be in a spot to take a quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. Unless for some reason they trade that pick again.
We also didn't see, maybe this next round we'll see it. Someone usually always takes a shot on Watson.
Yep.
We didn't see it go. See, this team took 3 quarterbacks, and it's because they took Hurts, like, whatever, it's fine. But, like, team 1 took Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, and then added Sam Darnold. Like, what does that Sam Darnold pick do for you?
What does the Justin Herbert pick do for you?
Yeah, I mean...
I have so many questions with that build.
Yeah. And then the same thing. The guy that took Mac Jones had Russell Wilson and Burrow. Yeah, I mean, team 1, every time, the first 3 picks, so you start judging team 1 at pick 4 and beyond. But I like, I'm just looking at the board here. I'm scouting the competition.
I like team 11. I wish he would have, pick 10, I think if he would have taken, Stafford there, I think I would have liked the team a little bit more. But I think Team 11 is definitely competition.
Yeah, I like Team 3 a good amount as well. I think Team 3 is pretty solid.
Yeah, very balanced. I'm probably making people dizzy. I'm scrolling up and down.
Yeah. I always like to look at the end of these. We're just taking a defense, and these are all just guys. We're just riffing now. I do like Team 3 a good amount.
Watch everybody take another defense just to screw us. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I honestly go for good for it. Good for them. Good on them. Leave more guys in the waivers for us. Yeah, we didn't see Herndon drafted. There goes Conklin. Let's see if people.
Yeah, Herndon just went to Minnesota yesterday.
Yeah, usually take someone to take a shot in these, because especially with the FFPC format. Because like I said, I usually like to take Parham just for the outside chance. Like, he's like a round 20 kind of staple, just whatever. And if I have to cut him, I cut him. But if you get just that hit in this format,
people forget Darren Waller was a round 20 pick in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, he was in a lot of season leagues. He was a waiver pickup. You just take a shot. Logan Thomas was that way last year too. Now, granted, the misconception of Logan Thomas is from last year is a little different, because Logan Thomas was awful for like the first 10 weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't until they got checked down Alex in.
Yeah, I mean, he had like 300 yards through 10 games last year, and no game where he had more than 4 catches. Then in the fantasy playoffs, he had a game where he had 14 targets, and I want to say 10 targets, and it kind of elevated his line a little bit. But yeah, same thing. Like Parham, if you have to cut him, so what? Like he's the guy just like tanking the last shots. Like I said, Dwayne Esker just been like occupying that now that people take shots on Parham. Parham didn't go in this one though. He didn't get drafted.
Who are you leaning here? I'm leaning Jacksonville just because of week 1 matchup.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, yeah. I mean, maybe like Minnesota, just like the Bengals are going to throw so much, like you get all those dropbacks for sacks and picks.
And their line's bad too.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it from that when you're streaming defenses, it's kind of a misconception to just take a bad offense because you want the sacks and turnovers because fantasy scoring that's just juice that way. It's why the team defense is bad. It's a bad fantasy position.
Okay, I'm fine gambling on Minnesota too.
Yeah, I mean, just take a shot. I mean, just like from a drop back perspective, I think
you
get a
more
little more
opportunities
upside maybe because the Bengals could score 20 points and still give us points.
That's true. There goes your boy JJ Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting guy to kind of just see how that plays out.
It's a good dart throw.
Yeah, no problem with it there. And you never know because he played so well. Both those guys played so good in the preseason.
Yeah, they did. They really did.
That's what made the Sony trade even happen. Like,
yep.
And I do wonder if the Rams already had privy to knowledge that Xavier Jones has already hurt when they made that trade as well.
Yeah. Okay, Minnesota, locking it in.
Yeah, let's go Minnesota. We started it with a Minnesota Viking. We're going to end it with a Minnesota Viking.
Keeping the bill true.
Complete. Yeah, you got some correlation week 1, Dalvin and the Vikings defense.
Stack them.
We got a little correlation. Yeah, I mean, listen, this was great. It was it was easy to draft with you. You had a process that is similar to mine. Outside of getting sniped on Denver defense and Darrington Evans, it was almost a perfect
Forget
build.
those guys. It was almost a perfect build. I think those are the 2 daggers that hurt the most. But just like we told the listener, you move on, you adjust, and you tweak from there. So it did hurt. It definitely stung a little bit, but we still put together one hell of a team. So I appreciate you coming on, and it was a pleasure drafting with you. I'm looking forward to managing this league with you this year, and we'll see how we do. And Vegas next year.
Yeah, listen, we'll stick a pin in Vegas. It was great meeting you in Canton and then setting this up, and I feel like we got a really good team in the 11th hour of fantasy drafts. So I'm looking forward to managing this, and then listen, just everyone here, week 1, man, we're ready.
Yeah, let's go. For those who are still watching, make sure to follow Rich Hribar on Twitter. That is at Lord Reebs. That is Lord and then REEBS. Make sure to follow FantasyData at NFL, and make sure to smash the subscribe button on YouTube. We're doing more drafts next week. We got live shows every Tuesday and every Friday. Tuesday, we're doing waiver wires. I actually just wrote out our schedule for the in-season. So Tuesdays nights, we're going to do Believe It or Leave It. We're going to recap Sunday Night Football and talk about things that we believe or we're leaving on the table. We're going to do waiver wire every Tuesday with our fabulous advice, the pun there. And then we have our prize picks Thursday Night Football. We're going to go over our lines for prize picks. And then Friday, we're going to be doing injury news, hurt and alert. And then we're going to be doing our positional rankings on Fantasy Pros for that week. And then we're going to be doing prize picks slate on Friday as well for Sunday night. So thanks again for joining, Rich. I really appreciate drafting with you folks. See you back here on Friday night.